Hi, welcome to a very short introduction to the layout of Unity. This video is for those thinking of starting to learn Unity and would like to know what they might expect when they first open the program. Let's get started. Starting with the scene view. You can describe this as the behind the scenes view. This will show you information about the camera, the game objects in the scene, the grid alignment, game objects not in view, such as pathfinding waypoints and effector fields. So, starting from this scene, we can see here this white line, that's the view of the camera. We can see that in the middle. A better representation is in the 3D view, even though there's no contrast here. But that line that we saw just before, we go back, that's what the camera sees. So if we were to place a sprite onto that scene, the camera can actually view it. Game view. This is the representation of the final product. Everything meant to be seen in the completed version of your project can be seen in this view. The color that you're seeing is the background color the camera is set to. You can change this color in the camera settings, and it can be really useful for simple projects such as top-down games with grass or water backgrounds. So, to demonstrate the game view, if we were to press play, and this will take a bit, it takes us to the game view. You can just click that, but this is what, if there was a game, it would be showing it to you right now. If we press stop, okay, and just to demonstrate, I'll add a rigid body 2D. Gotta make sure it's 2D because this is a 2D game. And we press play. It takes us to the game view. And since it has gravity, it falls. So that's the game view. Just a small addendum. I forgot to mention the background color for the game view. That comes from the main camera up here. If you go click on this in the hierarchy and go to background, you can change the color of the game screen, change the background color from the camera, and that's represented in the game screen. The hierarchy. This is where all the game objects in your project are listed. Game objects are pretty much anything that's in your game, whether it's visible or not. For example, an audio object that plays music or sound effects is considered an object even though it has no visual representation in the game. This is where you manage your game objects. You can rename them, duplicate them, make them the children of other objects. The general order of the objects doesn't make any difference to the completed project, but keeping them in some sort of order is very important, especially as your projects get larger. So, in this area, we can see that we have the cartoon fighter spaceship, and if we want to rename that, we can go to rename and call it spaceship. There, we could do things such as Control D, which would duplicate many of them. And I've created an object up here, and if we were to shift and select, we could store them in there and minimize it so we can save space in this area. The project window. This is where all the assets for your game project are stored. Before an asset goes into the scene as a game object, it goes in here first. Technically, everything you need for the game can be placed in this initial asset folder, but even for small projects, you're going to need to organize your game assets into properly named folders, as keeping track of everything is quickly going to become unmanageable with our system. On top of storing assets, it's a place where you can alter and make changes to an asset before placing it in the game scene. For instance, you can splice up tile and sprite sheets and change the size of images. Okay, so this area here is the project window. We've got the assets folder. That's the initial assets folder. So we can do things such as we can create a new folder. We'll call that example, not capitalized. And that's just where we would store files and that we want to use in our project. As I said before, it's very good practice to keep everything in organized in folders. And also we can do things such as in here, this is where we can edit an image. Now I could just press R and scale it, but for certain things it's better to change the sprite in down here, the original sprite, the source image. So we go to 500 pixels per unit, apply, and that makes it smaller. Now we can also do something like go to this image here. We can go multiple, sprite editor, apply. You can slice, group by cellular, apply. Takes a few seconds. And there, see, we've spliced it up and we can put it into the scene. Now that's done in the directly editable in the project window. So yeah, that's the project window. The inspector. This view shows you the details and components of a selected game object. In this view, you can add and subtract components, add scripts to objects, and alter the many values that are visible. This view can often seem the most intimidating, but after gaining some experience, you'll find that this window is going to allow you the greatest control of the elements in your game projects. Okay, to demonstrate the inspector, we have an object here in the game scene. We click on it. All the components for that object are visible in the inspector. So I put a rigid body on 2D on there earlier. These are the values that we can manipulate if we wanted to. The gravity scale, if we were to push that right up and press play. And there's faster computer. Okay, it falls a lot faster than the last time. But we can add more components. A box collider 2D, since this is a 2D object, that would create a field which interacts with other objects. What else can we do? Delete components. I mean, if I wanted to, I could get rid of the sprite renderer, reset the sprite, remove component. It gets, as you can see here, it's not visible anymore because it doesn't have a sprite renderer, but I can Control Z that back. And if I wanted to, I could also add a script if I wanted to create a custom script to control or to add some sort of feature to this game object. I can place it somewhere here on the screen, and if I were to play that, it would enact the script. So that's a very short introduction to the inspector. And finally, the menu bar. This area holds a range of diverse options. As a beginner, the most important button you should probably know is the Windows button. Beginners will often accidentally close an important window, and this button is going to help you get it back on screen. There are so many other options in this bar that are beyond the scope of this very quick tutorial, and a more detailed explanation is suited to more advanced tutorials. For the menu bar, as I just mentioned, there are so many options that are available in these buttons. They're beyond the scope of a beginner tutorial. You know, obviously you have the save, but like any kind of more detailed explanation, they require their own videos. Like each individual option here could have its own video. So the most important one for a beginner, just understanding the layout, just trying to learn the layout, is the window button. So if you were to accidentally delete your scene view, which happens with beginners, it happened with me. I don't know how we do it, but we end up doing it. So if we were to lose a scene view, we will go to Window, General, Scene. Okay, it brings up a new scene view, and we can just pop it in there, change the arrangement, and there you've just recovered your scene. Yeah, so that's it for the explanation of the menu bar. That concludes this short beginner tutorial for the basic layout of Unity. We've briefly covered the scene view, the game view, hierarchy, project window, inspector view, and menu bar. I hope it was useful, and thanks for watching.